Welcome to the Immigrant Entrepreneurs Podcast, where our mission is to inspire, impact, and influence other immigrant entrepreneurs to follow their dreams and create the future they want. My guest today is a serial entrepreneur, author, and speaker, Lola Adeyemo. Lola, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Absolutely. So, Lola, please give our audience a quick overview of who you are, where you immigrated from, and what your story is.
Yeah, thank you. So Lola Adeyemo, as you said, I was born and raised in Nigeria, West Africa, and that's where I spent the first 24 years of my life, which I like to say is the formative years because that's where you're raised, and so that's home. I moved to the US through the student visa route in 2009, and I was in Texas, studied biotechnology, master's in biotech, and then came to the West Coast region, based in San Diego, California. Right now, worked in the biotech sector, worked across a couple of global biotech organizations before moving to the culture side and the entrepreneurial side of things. So very much most of my work years, a lot of my work years have been in corporate America. And prior to moving to America, I did work in Nigeria in the corporate space as well.
I see. And so, what was the first step that you took into entrepreneurship, and basically starting as an entrepreneur?
So I would say the first step wasn't my step, it was supporting of my husband. So while I was in corporate America, the first business that we had together, he's a software engineer, and he was moving to start a IT company, IT consulting company. And I'm co-founder, so I worked with him part-time, but um, very very a little bit of the entrepreneurial taste then, as he started building that, and at the back end I was supporting, but I really was 99% working in corporate America. In 2020, when I left corporate America, it was to 100% partner to grow that company, our company, which had a model that employed other engineers.
Mm-hmm.
So I needed to set up the operation. So 100% quitting corporate America was 100% jumping into entrepreneurship in order to grow a business that we had already had for like 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I, kind of started going back into my own work, which is the Inclusion Partnership for Corporate America as a consultant. I started building that as at the side as well, and that's really where my passion is, around impact, around supporting companies to build inclusive workplaces, and that also bled into my nonprofit, which I started a little later.
Awesome. Can you tell us exactly what you do if somebody is listening to you and they're like, "Oh, that sounds interesting, but I still don't exactly understand what you do with, with the corporate America
Yeah.
that you have and supporting them with the inclusive." So, please tell us more
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, so I'm a community building expert. So I'm a consultant. I partner with corporate leaders, HR primarily, sometimes the DEI leaders, sometimes the head of culture, sometimes the talent head. But my niche, my focus is helping the organization to build inclusive communities within their workplace. So when people think about things like student groups on campus,
Mm-hmm.
but it's, within corporate organizations, we get hired to work in different departments. But a lot of times there's also need and value in building communities for your employees within the workplace. So my work, kind of lends itself to the HR platform. If the company does have a diversity, equity, inclusion platform, it bleeds into both. But my main clients are head of talent, head of HR, head of people, who want to build something. I partner with them for, to support to build that framework, and then I step away.
Okay, when do they usually come to you, and what's their problem or something that they want to have solved when they come to you?
Yeah, so a couple of signals when they come to me. A lot of times, the ones that are very clear and obvious is usually we have high turnover, or our employee survey. We've done our employee survey this year, and there's a lot of negative feedback. Our employees are struggling, or we have a lot of people leaving. People are not staying, right? The very clear one is when you have employee resource groups. So we already have groups that started, but now they are struggling because there's no structure. Because having groups is one thing. Making sure that the groups are not becoming exclusive spaces is a different thing, right? So sometimes we have all these groups and we're struggling to give them direction. We don't know what to do to support them, and we think there are some things they are doing that is not being done properly, right? So then the groups already exist. What I do is I look at the data, and then I look at their company data, and then I do sessions with the groups. We do workshops. I have different tools and platforms that I use. Sometimes we do focus groups to host conversations with the existing group. So usually it's the groups are there and we are struggling and we are looking for ways to support our groups. Sometimes they come to me when they don't have groups at all. The HR, the CEO the company is growing very fast
Mm-hmm.
and they are struggling to engage their employees. And so now they bring me in to say, what is the best path forward in order to support our people?
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Do you work with specific industries, or do you work industry agnostic?
It is industry agnostic because I came from biotech when I initially started. I kind of focused on biotech, but very, very industry agnostic. What I've tried to start limiting myself to for best, where I've seen the most effect is by size.
Mm-hmm.
Companies between 1,000 to 5,000 employees, because they most times don't have the infrastructure in place for this kind of support or this level of detail. Um, the companies that have 10,000 plus 50,000 employees, most times when I go there is just to lead a strategy session. They already have the groups and the
Mm-hmm.
level of support they need is very different. It's somebody to revise their policies, it's somebody to lead them in a planning session for the new year. They
Mm-hmm.
already have those groups. But for the smaller size companies a lot of them have grown a lot in a few years, I'm coming in to help them determine where do we need to go next? How do we support our people? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. So, okay, now we understand what you do.
A little bit.
Exactly. By the way, how do you find these companies that are in need of your service or vice versa? How do they find you?
So LinkedIn has been a huge part of my business.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very active on LinkedIn. I have a presence there. I have a newsletter there. I host events and programs. A lot of my events and programs are on LinkedIn. So they find me because I have such a strong presence there based on the work that I do. So they find me. But I also have I go to conferences. I do a lot of speaking at HR conferences. I go to where the business leaders are, and I
Mm-hmm.
do a lot of speaking at conferences. And sometimes I'll do sponsorships where they come to me and I talk. I give talks about what I'm finding with the companies, and I build relationships there.
Mm-hmm. And how much do you think being an immigrant yourself, having experienced this, helps you with what you do?
I mean, being an immigrant has been a huge part of who I am, but I think the biggest part of it is seeing a need, recognizing that need,
Mm-hmm.
because my work focuses on communities, the workplace within the workplace. I'm a product of how effective this can be.
Mm-hmm.
And before I left corporate America, I was actually working for a company with most of my companies had thousands of employees globally, right? My last role was with a company that had more than 90,000 employees. And I was in a position where I was able to help identify gaps and manage their programs. And I was also, I was in charge of data analysis for their HR and people platform. So just being able to bring that analytical mindset to their data to help to see where the issues are, and then using my story. So I use a lot of storytelling in my talk because
Mm.
I use myself as an example. I gather stories. I host employee resource groups across different companies every month. So I'm hearing what people are feeling. A lot of times there's a disconnect at the leadership level. And so I think what I lived, I think my lived experience as an
Mm.
immigrant trying to build community in a new country, in a new company, I think it showed me what the issues are and how the people that I'm ultimately trying to help can really benefit.
Mhm. I wonder, is there within the people and companies you help with, are there lots of immigrants?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
lots of immigrants. Yeah, most of the global organizations, there's a lot of immigrants in the corporate workplace, but there's not a lot of support or acknowledgement of that. And I think that's where kind of segue to my nonprofits. That's where that
Mm-hmm.
nonprofits came out of. Because I started with the consulting, with the work, and I'm helping companies understand what communities are needed, what communities they need to support. And then I didn't really see anybody understanding that immigrants in corporate America, sometimes we have multiple barriers
Mm-hmm.
that we are dealing with, some of it having to do with cultural um, differences, right? So that's why I started Immigrants Incorporate. So it's more or less of a B2B, more of a B2C for immigrants, early mid-career immigrants who work in corporate America. So we have monthly networking where we are coming to have conversations. We're coming to educate ourselves and train ourselves about corporate America. Do you even understand how to negotiate for your salary? Do you understand that there's some hidden benefits at your company that you can use to develop your career? Do you know how to transition roles even with a work visa? Do you know how to create opportunities for yourself? So yeah, so there is a lot of immigrants, but I didn't see a lot of immigrant focused support from
Mm-hmm.
HR or from leadership. We talk a lot about immigrant entrepreneurs, but I think a lot of times we don't talk about the fact that a lot of immigrants become entrepreneurs because they see need or they couldn't
Mm-hmm.
grow or thrive in corporate America. And while not everybody can be an entrepreneur, what about the people that are in the corporate space? How can we help them advance? How can we help them
Mm-hmm.
take up more leadership role? And how can we also help them be advocates and mentors for other
Mm-hmm.
professionals?
Mm-hmm. As you see, I'm taking notes because I have a bunch of questions. So, but before we get, I'm actually gonna dive into your nonprofit and the needs and the support where immigrants or immigrant entrepreneurs or immigrants that work in jobs need. But before we get there, I have another question. With your consulting business, how did that come to you, or how did you um, decide that that's what you wanted to do? Were you sitting in San Diego by the beach one day and it
Very
was like,
close. Very close. So I'll tell you that I was the number one person that I always say, and my younger sister back in Nigeria, she debates this with me because I'm always like, I'm not an entrepreneur, I'm not a business person, I'm a corporate girl. Like
Mhm,
that was me. Like I want to climb that corporate ladder. Um, when I left corporate America in 2020, I was thinking I was just going to be the back end, support my husband's because we got a contract and we needed to hire employees. We had to set up payroll and we had to onboard new hires, create our documents. I mean, the company started with just two of us, but
mhm,
now we were hiring full time. All our employees are full time. We have 21 employees now. And so it's a different model,
mhm,
and so I stepped back to kind of support with that. But I was thinking I would go back to corporate America when the company is standing. Somebody did say, once an entrepreneur, you can never go back.
right.
But I think the very first time it occurred to me that I could have a business around the inclusion, the culture, the employee resource group space is somebody approached me. Somebody had approached me to say, "Oh, I'm looking for, do you do any consulting work?"
Mm,
And I'm like, Yeah, maybe. I don't know. What do you need? So my first client had approached me to ask if I could help.
Mm,
And then my husband is, of course, there's a women kind of gendered perspective or something, because I'm sitting there overthinking it.
mm-hmm,
And he's saying, no, just go to LegalZoom, register your company, and you will build it out. I'm thinking, oh, I got to go take a ton of certifications. I have to
mm-hmm,
do these. He literally said, go to LegalZoom, just register the entity, and I will build a website for you, and you will give me the information, and you will take it from there. And I was
mm,
so sure I didn't know how to do it. Now, knowing what I wanted my company to be about, so of course it was 2020, and there's a lot of DEI. Everybody wants to get into DEI. But I really had a passion for employee resource groups. And when I left corporate America, I had started bringing employee resource groups together outside of different companies. And we've been going for 4 years now. Every month, every first Friday, I'm bringing ERGs together. I'm doing this because this is a community I'm passionate about. And I didn't think of it as a business model. But I had a fellow entrepreneur friend who was like, every time I'm thinking about ARG issues and solutions, I come to you.
mm,
This is your niche. And I said, well, that's not a business model. ARGs don't have, I just want to help them. And she said, it's entirely your thing. Own
mm.
it. And I never forgot, because we were sitting by the water, actually.
Oh, wow.
And that's why I was laughing when you said that. Because she was the first person that really helped me see that build your business around what you're passionate about. It is your business. You want
Mhm,
ERGs to be successful. So my clients are the companies, they are the leaders, but the people I'm ultimately trying to help is the employees that work within the
mm,
organization. So I have a community where I'm constantly, bringing them together every single month, and we're growing and talking about the challenges they're having with their groups across different companies. So
mhm,
these helps me to shape my offering for companies, so they know what's on their employees' mind. So
mhm,
they know, some of the ways that they can leverage that. So a combination of opportunity and the right people in my ears.
mm. I love that. So, and okay, let's talk about your nonprofit, that the immigrant work that you do. When you work with so many immigrants, what are the common needs that you see? What are the challenges they face? If, let's say, let's make something up. If I was asking you today, hey, I want to build, which is actually also a question, to be honest. I'm, I'm looking for solutions that I can bring to immigrants, to the corporate or entrepreneurs immigrant world, that I can help them. What are the biggest needs and desires? What would your answer be? Or what is your answer?
Well, I mean, I'm biased, but that's the solution I'm bringing. I'm just kidding. Because
That's
it's
one of
community.
that's
One
one
of
of
them,
them.
one of them, I think it's community. I think a lot of times as
Mm,
immigrants, we lose our community from back home. I come from Nigeria, West Africa. My dad was the first of 9 kids. My mom, the first of 6. I grew up with a large community. If you need somebody, somebody knows somebody who knows somebody.
mhm,
That's, our community is sort of like your riches. And then you move to this country, you're starting from knowing nobody.
mhm,
I was in I didn't know anybody in Houston, and then when I got my first job in San Diego, I knew my husband, but it's in a completely different industry. So I even lost my grad school connections, right? And so we think we are doing it alone, and I think we are so powerful when we come together and support ourselves. So when I started Immigrants Incorporate, initially I was focused on trainings and like courses, but I started surveying our members. I did a lot of conversations, and everybody's like, "We just want to network. I just want to meet my people. I just want to know that people get me." From the community, which is free to join, the programs then begin to emerge. Right? It's like people are helping each other. All I'm doing is creating the space.
mhm,
Of course, people are looking for jobs, but people are, so even though I'm focused on immigrants in corporate America, guess what? A lot of them are trying to start businesses. So we are
mm,
having sessions where I'm helping people understand that you don't have to quit your job to start a business. You
Mhm.
can start doing your business. Even if your visa category is still a little tricky, sometimes starting your business can be a good factor to help you with that visa process challenge or green card, right? So there's so many things that we don't understand and we miss out on it because we don't understand and we're not sharing our experiences. So being able to community is one thing, and I think also advocacy is a big part of what my nonprofit focus on. Well, it's a small part. I never was fond of politics, and I'm not. But what I realized when I started the nonprofit 3 years ago, somebody asked me, "Do you think policies can help with some of the challenges with immigrants?" And that was the first time I would ever think about that. And I said, yeah, but immigrants just want to do their work and they don't want to get involved in anything. But actually, we need to get involved in some things. We need to pay attention. We need to understand our rights because a lot of immigrants that I know, very hardworking, very smart, very law abiding.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
but if we don't speak up, if we don't show, like this platform that you have created, let people know that we are here. We pay
Mhm.
taxes, we do our job, we're very
Mhm.
smart, we're very creative. We can bring our own resources to support ourselves
Mhm.
as well if we come together in community.
I love that. And also we don't need to hide. We can be
No.
immigrants and we can be our entrepreneurs and be proud of it and own it,
Yep. Yep.
because sometimes I feel like so I was it was last year. I went to a restaurant and I always like to ask, "Hey, who is the owner? What is that?" And then they told me this person was I'm not going to say any names, was originally from Europe. And then I said, "Oh, amazing. So she's an immigrant entrepreneur." And the lady who was talking to me, who was basically the server, she was like, "Yeah, I don't think she likes to be an immigrant entrepreneur." And she was actually herself an immigrant. And then I'm like, "Hold on, why not?" She was like, "Yeah, maybe she doesn't want that." And then I talked to her a little bit and asked her questions, and I realized the way she was perceiving being an immigrant was not was not was not very positive.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. It's you are so correct, and that was part of my fear when I intentionally um, named my nonprofit Immigrants Incorporate. There was that, is this does this I don't know, is this a good thing? Do you want to hide that name? But I started using that word when I started interviewing people for my book. So my
Mhm.
book, I interviewed immigrants from different parts of the world who work in corporate America. And the same experience you had, I had. There were some people that I approached
Mhm.
and they told me, yeah, I'm an immigrant. I wasn't born here, but I don't want to be interviewed for this because I don't call
Mhm.
myself an immigrant. And so we
Interesting.
had a different conversation with people who said, "Oh wow, you are so brave. You are talking about immigrants on LinkedIn." And I'm like, "Well, I am an immigrant."
Right.
So I definitely saw that, and I think that's what the narrative we're trying to change is.
Mhm.
Immigrants are doing amazing things. Immigrants are
Mhm.
smart. Immigrants are resilient, and we're here. We're living here. We pay
Mhm.
taxes. We're from somewhere else, but we bring so much to the community,
Mhm.
to the economy, and we would like to make sure that narrative, that negative perception is changed.
Absolutely. And own it, just own it and be proud of it. And like anything and anywhere that there are good and bad people, there might be some people that, as you said, do not abide the law. But hey, guess what? There are more of them that contribute to the economy and pay their taxes and
Right,
create jobs and create businesses.
right.
So yeah, I
And
believe.
we all 100% support that if people don't obey the law, whether they're
Mhm.
immigrants or not, they should
Of
face,
course.
justice. So I don't think anybody is saying, oh, just because you're immigrants, you get to
Mhm.
get away with things. But we have to change that narrative that
Mhm.
assumes that being an immigrant is a bad thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I believe because it's such a polarizing thing that immigrants, it gets people's attention, right? then people sometimes misuse it for just getting more attention,
Right.
right?
Right.
Um, yeah. So, but hey, I'm glad people like yourself and I have decided to do what we do, and
Yes. Yes.
shine more light on the ones that actually are here to do something positive and contribute to community and economy in any way they can.
Yeah.
So, tell us quickly about your book, please.
Yes. So when I started my consulting, and again as I started doing the work with different groups within companies, and then I started to think about my own experience, like what really were the groups that made me really excited, that made me, and realized it was immigrants, other immigrants. It didn't matter where they're from. When I met other immigrants, I felt like I've met my people.
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't matter what continent you're from. We're kind of like, okay, we get it.
Mm-hmm.
Get the, having family far away, having, different needs, different cultural beliefs, and things like that you are navigating. And so I wanted to find out if that was just me and if that was just my small circle. And as part of I was doing a doctoral program. I'm still doing it. I'm finishing it up now. I wanted to do a research around the immigrant experience in corporate America. It ended up not being a topic that was accepted for my dissertation because my doctor is in the School of Business, and they
Mm-hmm.
wanted us to focus on and they thought that was a social issue. They wanted us to focus on a business issue, but I decided to interview immigrants from different companies and to kind of just interview them and see what emerged. So more from a formal doctoral lens,
Mm-hmm.
and so I did over 50 interviews and then started to do like coding to see what was emerging, what were the common thread that I was seeing. And I put it together in a book. And the first chapter was communication. Communication was the common thread, the first thing that everybody kind of saw as a barrier. It didn't matter if they were born here or
Mm-hmm.
they moved here as adults. And communication was also the biggest chapter because it talked about it's not just written, it's spoken, it's email, right? When you're talking about in the corporate workplace, there's a lot of layers to communication. It's accents, it's different words, it's different expressions that people have challenges with in translating when you're in the corporate world. And so the book is, from a career perspective, is a couple of chapters on some of the things that emerge, similarities with people. So I use a lot of stories of people I interviewed from different countries and how our experiences all merged into negotiation, career decisions, communications, and I opened it up with just all of the diversity around being an immigrant, and even in the word itself. So yeah, so the book is kind of the groundwork that started Immigrants Incorporate, because for me, I felt like the book is something that every immigrant will relate to it. But
Mm-hmm.
then now what? You
Mm-hmm.
see that book and you're like, oh my gosh, this is my experience. But then there wasn't really, I felt like there wasn't a solution after people read the book and they connect with it. What next? And then for HR leaders as well, when they read it and they're like, oh wow, I didn't think about this perspective, then how can they build solutions at their companies to support immigrants? And so that's where the membership platform comes in. And so we're focused on empowering immigrant professionals in their early mid career who are in corporate America to have successful corporate careers. But the second piece is HR education. So, how are we taking the insights from this group to help HR leaders better support immigrants? Right. And then how are we sort of helping to navigate the legal side of it? So, it's growing, it's responding to what people need, what people this year, the last year, this year, we're really focused on that community. For now is let's grow this group, let's come together, let's hear what we need, and then let's um, get other immigrants who are more successful to mentor, to coach, to
Mm-hmm.
financially sponsor. And somebody had asked me, as you're raising money, grants and sponsorship for this nonprofit, because it's a 501c3, what is the main financial um, obligation that you have for the nonprofit? And for me, I think I want to make sure that immigrants, professionals are going to conferences every year. We want to be able to pay for their conferences. We want to be able to support their certifications. A lot of people don't even go to conferences, and you're just talking your role, doing your job. How are you networking? How are you developing yourself? So we want to support people's professional development courses. If your company is not covering it, how can we help? How can we pay for your travel? Right? Sometimes the company will pay for the conference, but they won't pay for your travel. And sometimes you have a certification that you want to take. Your employer says it's not really relevant. I don't want you to do it, but you want to do it for your own development. So we want to be that resource that would help them. And then we'll also have like focused programs where we're bringing experts into the community to coach and to teach immigrants through that lens. People that get it, we're helping to educate them.
And for someone who might be asking themselves now, how can I join the community? So first of all, it's an online community, correct?
It's an online community, yes. So online membership across the US. It's immigrantsinincorporate.org. And it's free to join. Just go online and join. We have virtual programs every month. We have at least 2 programs. One of it is networking, pure networking. Then the other one is an expert session. In 2026, our goal is to have some more localized chapters so that people can start to meet themselves where they live. Right now, I'm in San Diego, so we do quarterly in person in San Diego, and we connect to campuses. So we connect to international students departments in colleges around us so that they start coming, they start meeting professionals who are also immigrants and building their network.
Very impressive. And before we come to the end of the podcast, if people want to find you and connect with you, I mean, we will put you in the show notes, but please tell them where they can find you and what's the best way to connect with you.
Yeah, so Lola at immigrantsinincorporate.org. The fastest way is LinkedIn. I'm always on LinkedIn. All things being safe, if nothing happens to LinkedIn and LinkedIn closes down tomorrow. For those of us that live in a virtual platform, LinkedIn is the quickest way to connect with me. But if you send me an email at immigrantsinincorporate.org, a lot of times people use .com by default. So I like to say is .org. I love to grab coffee, 15 minutes chats, and just get to know people and connect. I like connecting people when I can. How can I support you? Please feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Lola, thank you. First of all, thank you for the amazing work you do and pouring your heart and soul into what you do with other immigrants. And second, thank you so much for taking the time and coming on the show and sharing your story and also sharing what you do with our audience. It's been a blessing to have you on the show. And I look forward to connecting with you.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And thanks for creating this space, this very important space for these conversations. This goes a long way for people. So thank you.
Thank you so much. God bless.